Be happy, happy, happy.
Be happy, be happy, mommy.
Come on, keep your chin up. Enjoy this time.
Smile.
Smile, smile, my darling.
Honey, you gotta count your blessings.
Welcome to Creative Mamas Unplugged. We are your hosts. I'm Cherice Barton.
And I'm Shelly Hutchinson. Creative Mamas Unplugged is a podcast where we navigate the hell out of being a creative mom with humor and heart.
We will have honest conversations,
Hear wise words from fellow badass mamas,
and share hilarious stories around motherhood for some much-needed comic relief. Listen, motherhood is the most creative, most difficult job in the world. You are not alone, and you deserve to be happy.
Today, we have the absolute pleasure of welcoming someone who happens to be very dear to me personally, Alexandra Damiani. Alexandra and I share a very long history as dancers, choreographers, teachers, directors, mamas, and friends, and I am beyond thrilled to have her with us today. As the artistic director of Les Ballets Jazz de Montréal, she has shaped the contemporary dance world, collaborating with renowned choreographers, working in film, coaching Hollywood stars, and inspiring countless dancers worldwide. Beyond her incredible career, Alexandra is also a devoted mother of two, balancing family and artistic passion. In this episode, we dive into the realities of being a working artist and mother, the power of self-care and mindfulness, and why she believes strength training is a game changer for women. Alex's story is one of reinvention, empowerment, and embracing life's constant evolution. We can't wait for you to hear this inspiring conversation. It's a two-parter. Let's dive in.
I grew up in France, in the Alps, very athletic, and I love dance. And early on, by the time I was 15, I left my family to go to Paris and study dance with the teachers of Paris Opera. It was a big leap of faith for my parents. Now I imagine my daughter is 10. It's 5 years. Only 5 years. In 5 years, it's as if she would leave the house and never leave again with me, So I'm reliving that and seeing this sacrifice and the love, my parents letting me go to fulfill my dream. And then by the time I was 18, I won a scholarship after winning a competition in France. And so I moved to New York, and I was barely 18 with very limited English and not much money. And it was another huge leap of faith. And I went to the Alvin Ailey School on scholarship, and quite fast started dancing professionally. Complexions, who celebrating its 30th anniversary. I was there in the early years with Dwight and Desmond. And I was listening to the podcast with Karine Plata-Di-Bajo. And anyway, so back then, now I'm 18 in New York and living my life. The training in France was very restrictive, and I felt like in a prison with all the aesthetic of ballet, and very self-conscious about mostly what I didn't have versus focusing on what I had. And when I arrived in New York, it was just a big fireworks, explosions, possibilities, endless, and just this hunger to just be creative and take a chance. And I felt fully supported. And then, perform, freelance, did Donald Byrd the group. I learned a lot. And then I went to Ballets Jazz Montréal, which actually I was hired when Cherice left the company. And I remember very well Cherice teaching me a part in the rep in the little studio. And I took over U tracks, and I stayed there for 3 years. And it was really good memories. And then I did 10 years back in New York with Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet, which was a very formative time in my career, where I started to shift from being a dancer to becoming a rehearsal director and then an artistic director. And I connect that moment very clearly with preparing myself to become a mom. Because the moment I decided to leave the light and the stage, there was this huge fear. Who am I going to become if I am not a dancer? I was going to lose my entire identity. I was going to become a nobody. And I was really scared. But in my bones, I felt, I was like 28 by then, that I needed to move on and do another role in order to keep growing as an artist, but as a human being and as a woman. So I decided to get in the shadow of the rehearsal director job, which is a very hard yet fulfilling, but definitely, not glamorous role. And being in the shadow, I found my light, like literally. And I developed all those qualities I didn't even know I had in myself. The patience, the tolerance, accepting that, imperfection in a way. And I think that really prepared me to maybe say, hey, I will be a mom one day, not even though I didn't know exactly how I'm going to make it happen as an artist, in New York City. But then my daughter was born. And she's now 10 years old. And I was back then artistic director of Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet in New York. And one thing, though, that is etched in my mind is seeing Crystal Pite, who came to choreograph a piece, Grace Engine, on the company in New York. And she had just given birth to Nico, a son, and she's breastfeeding and pumping, and Nico is in the little stroller in the studio, and she's creating. And I can feel it is like no joke. She's going through a lot, yet without even talking about it, but just me being, back then I was rehearsal director, I was sitting next to her, and Crystal made me realize that it was possible to be in the front of the room, being creative and still breastfeeding. It was hard. It was like a warrior. She was for me an Amazon, a warrior goddess. And I think that she's the one who showed me. I had no example before. I could not even follow an example. Everyone was just childless, some smoking cigarettes and, totally different from what I was imagining for myself. I didn't know how to get there. And Crystal just opened that door. So Emma was born a few years later. She's now 10. And then I went on a freelance. The company folded, which was a blessing. And I really went back to more education, restaging work, working at Juilliard and Princeton University and Marymount and other, and having more time to breastfeed my daughter and find a balance, which was not easy, but easier than being a full-time. And then my son was born. He's now 5 years old. His name is Solal. And when it was maybe 1 or 2, I felt ready to go back work into a team and be able to just share all the tools I developed. And I felt that motherhood had transformed me and made me a better leader in a way. Because being a mom, I didn't have the luxury of time anymore. So I needed to be decisive. I needed to make, that half hour count. So it was less about, I feel sometimes I had too much empathy and too much thinking. And it was like I was drowning into how to make it a perfect world for everyone. And that's being a mom. I said, sometimes people are going to be unhappy. I'll still do it from a place of love, but I'm going to be firm and I'm going to go for it. And it gave me that strength. So at that moment, I said, I'm ready to, go again. I'm not done with my career and I want to really enjoy the artistic direction. So I applied for Ballets Jazz Montréal, even though my son was only 2 years old. And I got the job. And then we moved to Montreal, which was crazy in itself. Away from both of our families, so we don't have the tribe that I miss terribly, and I think will make my life easier. But I did it anyway, and pretty much that was my journey. And so again, my kids are now 10 years old. Emma is going on 16, and Solal is 5.
Wow.
Now that feels like a miracle. I'm just going to be honest. Of course, I developed tools and I will be happy to share a bit my path, but I'm not entirely sure how I make it work. But definitely practice, deep breath, and decisiveness have been my allies. But it is a process. It's one thing I realized, I don't have it. The development phases of my kids change. When I think I have it, I need to shift because they're going through something different. The job is asking something different of me. It's like this huge surrender to not having it. And dance is like that. Like you never have an arabesque, or it's an experience. It's not something you hold and then that's it, I got it. So this kind of humility and curiosity of starting over every day has been a great teacher in my, motherhood path of saying, I don't have it. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going full on. I know I feel I've been I am a better person, but how I balance all of it is every day a bit of a miracle.
So true. I mean, motherhood, number one, is being creative and flexible every single minute of every single day. It is going with gut instinct. It is finding a firm hand with a soft heart, all of these things. And we were speaking with another guest recently about exactly the things that you were just talking about, being a mother and being in a leadership role. Another thing that you touched upon is the lack of people to use as examples, and there aren't enough mothers in leadership roles in that sense. There's more than there was before. Absolutely. But, for a lot of us, there wasn't an example. I both admire and also empathize with what you are managing right now, and there is no answer, and every day is different, and we don't have time, right?
I really feel that the being a mother, and I felt it in my bones back then, where like I really wanted to be a mother. And sometimes my husband, we laugh about it and say, lucky we didn't know how hard it was going to be, because otherwise we would not have done it and would have missed so many things. Because the transformative aspect of motherhood has really enabled me to almost go to another level in my life. Without that, I know that I would not have been literally in the crucible of how do you deal with not having enough time. And I think that you said it's being creative, and there is time. There is time. And how do I find my practice and stay in shape when I have no time? Well, I make sure like we live near the school of my kids, and I bring them to school every day. So I know I have 30 minutes in rain, in the snow, in the cold, in the sun, outside. I start my day with a walk to bring my kids to school. I do my breath work like between, two meetings in 2 minutes. I go into a deep mind meditation in 5 minutes. I can go there, replenish myself, and come back. Sometimes I do it even in a run, and there is a section in one of the show where it's a singing moment, where I'm not a singer, so I'm not gonna give any notes. So I have like the song. I have a 3 minutes and a half, and that 3 minutes and a half is a moment where I close my eyes, go in a deep breath, go into my deep mind meditation, and then come back, and I just feel replenished. And it took me 3 minutes. So it's like all these developing tools. I feel that being a mother, pushing me to be in those hard situations, has made me, I think, a better, human being at living life. I've been more skillful at living my life thanks to that. We always say we grow in those like hard moments. So you don't want them to be too hard when you go into huge, mental breakdown and burnout, which I have been close to. So you don't want that. But at the same time, those kind of challenges that having so many things to do in so little time, to me, has been really helpful in being, it's come back to a true presence, to being very present. And that minute is an opportunity to transform, like from being into a angry place where I just want to, and then in 1 minute, I have the breath exercise. Of course, all those tools I do Qigong, deep breathing. I mean, my husband, as you know, Jonathan Angelilli, had developed a program actually for mothers and women. I think he has been inspired by my journey, and he thinks those are the most inspiring and strong people he knows, and say, I want to support them. So he gave me a lot of tools that I have in my pocket in 1 minute to transform. And so I'm grateful for that. Of course, the moment it gets too much in the high pressure, and I get to a point of fatigue, and, and sometimes I just feel I'm just failing at everything. It's like those moments, I don't want them to be too much, because I can see with the lack of tribe, the lack of community. And I'm so grateful for both of you, Cherice and Shelly, like what you're doing, bringing all those, mamas, trying to do it, each one in our corner of the world, to connect us, through that moment with you is so important. And I miss that. But I'm grateful. I really felt in that way that my kids and motherhood has been a wonderful teacher at this point in my life. Not easy, but so worth it for sure. For me, for sure.
What I love so much is how you talk about the balance and what that looks like every day. It's different every day, which when you think about balance, it's actually like a verb. You're constantly weighing. It's a constant shift, like a seesaw. You're always trying to attain it. So it should look different every day. But I feel that in terms of like marketing and things that moms are hearing, which is like find balance, that to me has always felt and seemed like once you find it, then you have it and you keep it. Like I remember my aunt coming to see my second son when he was born. He was probably 2 months old. Love you, Aunt Yvonne. I said, now that I know what I'm doing, I was a little unsure before, but now that I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And she started cracking up. She started laughing. And I was like, why is she laughing at me? And now I know why she was laughing. That like, now I know what I'm doing. Her kids were grown and she thought it was hilarious. And now I understand because finding balance is daily. And what I find so cool is how you talked about the pocket of the meditation or the going into presence for 3.5 minutes. That's a big deal because every time I think of self-care, that word, I think that I have to leave the house. I have to get a sitter or I have to tell my husband or whatever that I'm doing a thing. And it's not that. The fact that you're doing that during a song in production it's awesome. And I think that is so inspiring because it's possible. 3.5 minutes can provide a lot of rejuvenation for moms.
But one thing that really for me helped me is the moment I realized that in order to move forward in life, you're not in balance. Balance is a stop in a way. And that in order to walk forward, I have to fall. I have to fall on one foot and fall on the other foot. It's my imbalance that I'm catching that makes me move forward, that creates a movement. And I realized that this is way more important for me to try to stay on one leg through my day in this balance and tense up about it. No, lose it so you can recreate it. Want it to be in balance in order to move. And you can decide the direction. If you want to move a little bit more in memory and a little bit more in like comfort zone, move back, fall down, fall back up. But you need that imbalance in order to move. I'm really against this idea of keeping, the balance, the scale, and you need to stay there. I think it's very dangerous. And it was dangerous for me. It was destructive. And the moment I gave in, into no, I need to be in balance to create. I need to be in balance to take risk. I need to be in balance to fight for my boundaries, to advocate for my rights. I need to be in balance so I can move. I can go into the danger. I can step aside. It just really helped me in my professional life and also, of course, as a mother.
Ooh, that is some good stuff. Don't you feel like that dance? And this is like such a silly question because of course it would, but like how deep do we think about how much being a dancer or dancing has helped you with that perspective or that mindset or that imagery even?
I was thinking about it for this podcast and I knew you were going to maybe ask me this question. And really, instead of thinking that dance has been teaching me tools that now I apply in my life, I'll go even deeper than that. I feel that my life is dance. And that comes back to this moment of fear, of letting go of being a dancer, of deciding to be a mother, going through the transformation. And you know that it won't be back the way it was. And that was your identity. All of these, I realized that there was such a relief when I had the revelation that no matter what I do, I'll be a dancer. Dance is in me. Dance is in my life. Meaning like I cut tomatoes in my kitchen. I'm a dancer. I do a speech at the board meeting. I am a dancer. The way I start the speech, the way I end up is a solo. Entrance is important. Finishing it is important. And this is a moment for me. I realized that I had no fear anymore because whatever I decide to do, dance is my life. Like, I know it sounds so corny when I say it. I was like, oh my gosh, Alexandra, but dance has taught me so much and dance is everywhere. And yes, we know it, the practice, because practice is going to be key. As a mother and as an artistic director, I need a practice. I need a practice, whether it's my daily walk, in my sitting meditation. I love strength training. Oh my goodness, mamas, 40 plus, strength train, lift heavy weights, stop with too much spin classes or things that would deplete your kidneys and make you feel, oh, I've accomplished too much. But in a way you have you distrain yourself. Strength training at our age is building ourselves.
I love that so much because I feel like, again, there was a lot of talk about emotional state and mental state and how we just stay positive and all that stuff, which I am a firm believer in, right? I find light in the dark in every minute of my day. However, what if you can't? What if you can't? Then what's the step, right? Is the step to do what you're saying in strength training, like get into your arms and see what that does. I just love that.
My husband, when I turned 40, I felt like, oh my gosh, I look good after the birth of my daughter. I look good, but I felt weak. I could feel I felt weak inside. And I said, okay, I'm bowing to him. I said, okay, I need help, which is very hard for me to say, especially like as a dancer. I'm a Pilates instructor. I know how to do my conditioning. I don't need to hire a trainer, especially my husband. Anyway, but finally I'm 40 years old. And I said, John, I need your help. I need you to train me. He said, we're going to strength train. And I was resistant. And that's been a transformative savior in my life. The feeling I had after the strength training was so empowering and it reflected into my life. And this is where I started to advocate for my rights at work, advocate for other people's rights, and even set boundaries that I had previously struggled to enforce. And that was linked with a feeling in my body that I could lift my own weight.
Creative Mamas Unplugged is produced by Breatheasy Productions with music by Jeremy Jurin. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give my mama 5 stars and keep coming back. Thanks to us kids, there are plenty of stories to tell. And you are not alone. Bye for now.